Okay, in this video, we are going to be looking at the Popup Grid stack. And I'm not going to be going over all the individual style settings for every single pop item. Those settings were reviewed inside the normal pop-up caption how-to video. And all of that is applicable to here. They share the same settings. Okay. Now, when are you going to want to use the Popup Grid stack? As we saw in the other video, pop-up caption, they are individually maintained. However, in Popup Grid, all of the style settings for your animation and the styles are actually configured at a parent level. And then you can add individual pop-up items that only manage the content for that pop-up. And as you'll notice in the Popup Grid, there is a plus button. And when you click that plus button, it adds a new item. Let's dive into the Popup Grid settings. And here you'll notice at the very top, we have grid layout. And what this does is it allows us to size our grid items. And I did allow this to be flexible so that you can kind of use your own CSS patterns here. So here I have the minimum size of a single item is going to be 15 rem. That's approximately 300 pixels. And then the max is going to be 1 FR. Most of the time, you're going to want to keep maximum at 1 FR. That's basically a 1 fraction unit. It's kind of like full width sort of thing. It's going to make the most sense to have it 1 FR in most cases. However, you can customize these to be the minimum and maximum size that you want. So for example, you can do, I want the minimum to be, 200 pixels. And I want the maximum to be 400 pixels, let's say. Okay. So you can definitely do that. And then the grid will dynamically add things to the page as we're doing it. Now, as you see here, I did 200 and 400 because they were static units, okay, for the maximum. It kind of just left this empty space, right? If I were to keep this as 1 FR, you'll notice now that it kind of changes things a little bit, right? So we have a minimum of 200 pixels. If we want a minimum of 100 pixels, you'll notice that it even goes even smaller. Okay, that's probably too small, but yeah, we can do minimum of 400 pixels. Okay, and what's great about this is let's do a manual adjustment. We'll see that as the screen changes, okay, it dynamically adds in new items. Let's change this back to 15 rem. Okay. So yeah, there we go. You'll notice that on large, it goes from 4. And then once it can't fit anymore, it goes down to 3, and then it goes to 2, and then it goes to 1. Okay. So you can adjust these settings. Again, I think just adjusting just the minimum settings is probably going to be, all you need. But yeah, I left this setting here just in case we needed to modify it for something. Okay. Next up is the gap. So that is obviously going to be the gap in between each one. I like it with a gap, but you can set this to be 0 or whatever you like, right? So if you want 0 gap in between all your items, there you go. Next up is this custom layout button. Now, let's say you didn't like this grid. Pop-up caption does it's a decent grid, right? It is fully responsive. But what if you wanted to create your own layouts? What can we do here? So if I go ahead and check the custom layout, what you'll notice is a drop zone has been displayed at the very top. Now at this point, what you can do is you can add in your own layout stacks. Okay. So let's say, for example, let's keep this simple. Let's go to foundation, or I'm sorry, the starter pack. And this is my free starter pack. Let's add a grid in here. Okay. And basically now I can use my power grid or my grid here. And let's go ahead and add in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cells. So now that I have 6 cells, let's go ahead and move all of these pop-up items into each cell. All right. Oh, I have one more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8. Okay. So now, instead of using the grid built into Popup Grid, I'm using my own. And again, I'm using the grid from Starter Pack, but you can use Bento or Foundation layouts or whatever you want. Okay, it doesn't matter. And I can go inside the grid settings here, and I can customize it to be whatever I want. Let's say on small, I want 2. On medium, I want 3. And on large, I want 4. Okay, simple enough. Let's go ahead and preview that. And we'll see is again, on large, I have 4, then 3, and then 2. And it just stops at 2 because I did 2 was on small. So there we go. You can use your own layouts. Now in here, if we wanted a gutter, right, we can add gutters at that point to each one. Maybe just gutter. Let's see what that looks like. And there we go. Now I have a gutter and we can configure that. Okay. So there we go. You can use your own layouts. Now what's also great is you can use feeds or something like that into this as well. Let's show you an example on how you can implement feeds with this. So I'm going to go ahead and I added a pop-up grid down below here. I'm just going to plop in feeds. And then what you're going to do is you're going to add your pop-up item into there. Now at this point, feeds, you're going to configure whatever your favorite feed is. Okay. It could be a CSV or it could be total CMS or it could be whatever you want. And then inside of the pop-up item, you're probably going to use warehoused image. You're going to use the macros inside the CSV data to populate the image, the alt text, and then inside of the content here, you're going to implement rules there as well. So yeah, I'm not going to show a full implementation of that, but just to kind of give you an idea here. Now, if you didn't want to use the pop-up grid layout, again, you can use a custom layout, and then you can add your grid into here, and you would essentially replicate just as you would with any other feed. Essentially, now this is using feeds to populate a starter pack grid, and it's going to create a bunch of grid cells that contain pop-up items, right? So, yeah, it will work great with feeds, total CMS, and a lot of other, layout generation tools out there. Okay, so now in the pop-up grid settings, everything after grid layout, these are all the identical settings that you would use as you were inside the pop-up caption stack. So this is going to be all the uniform settings across every pop-up item inside of a pop-up grid. So if I didn't want to have 1-to-1 aspect ratio, I can turn that off. And as you see, it turns it off everywhere. Okay. So any settings that I change inside here will affect every single pop-up item within my grid. Now let's look at what a pop-up item is. Essentially, it is just the content side of each individual item. So whether or not it's an image, a warehoused image, or a video, the size and alt tag information, if you want to make that a link, you can make that particular item a link. And then you can also add custom content, so you can add in your own custom stacks into there as well. So there we have it. I hope you enjoy Popup Grid. It's a super powerful stack that makes building great grids just like this super easy.